Hey everyone, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with DnD Doge. In today's video, we have a tale about a Dungeons & Dragons player that decides that it's a good idea to show the rest of the table his sword. A story about a paladin that has a grudge against tieflings, and more. But before we get into those, here's Lucky with a song to give us some bardic inspiration against the psychic damage that we all are sure to endure with these stories. Thanks, buddy. Now I think we are ready to get into some cringe. A creepy murder hobo goes too far. By Reddit user ExpressAmphibian16. I posted here a couple months ago about a cringelord with no social skills and a very weird playstyle. I won't go too much into detail, but basically he was an edgelord murder hobo who also had a bad habit of trying to seduce his sister's character. And I actually covered that story. You can find it in this video here, and I'll make sure to put a link to it in the description of this video. He was cringe, but we ended up letting him stay since his sister didn't seem bothered, and the DM was, to his credit, good about letting his antics mostly just affect him, i.e. he died a lot and suffered the penalty of our game's punitive leveling system. The next few months have been more or less the same thing, until he seemed to get bored of acting like an idiot and getting himself killed so often. He was now playing a warlock who had a genuinely compelling backstory. I think he genuinely liked this one, because it has been 6 sessions, and he had managed to keep himself alive. Heck, even our ranger had died, albeit in a noble sacrifice kind of way, during those 6 weeks. Because he was being a genuinely productive player, even if still edgy, we gave him the opportunity to regain some of his lost XP and levels. However, he was still obsessed with hitting on Paladin, his sister's character. Well, fast forward up to, a few days ago, and our problem player decided to bring a case of White Claws. It was kind of weird since he never mentioned anything about alcohol, and nobody at the table drinks and plays D&D, as we pretty much all figured out a long time ago that it just makes the game much stupider. But we let him have his drinks. By this point, we were gearing up to fight the BBEG secret servant, who was masquerading as the king's advisor. He was an extremely powerful lich-type homebrewed villain, so we really had to be ready in order to avoid a TPK, cause this DM legit pulls no punches, which we like. We prefer the challenge of trying to stay alive, and the fact that our actions have consequences. Anyway, we were in the Underdark to keep from his sight, as we prepared to sneak into his castle directly from the Underdark by basically climbing. By this time, our warlock was starting to get drunk. He was being super loud and coming up with just really stupid ideas on how to deal with the Vizier. Typical D&D stuff. Then, he switched to the conversation to how sexy Paladin's character looked in her new golden armor. Paladin told him the same thing that she told all of his overly flirtatious characters. Paladin's character has a husband and kids, and she is lawful good and would never betray him. She still didn't seem bothered in real life, just amused, as if her older brother is just a child begging her for a cookie that he can't have. But the evening progressed, and we fought a few Underdark monsters, as Warlock got drunker and drunker in real life. Even our fighter commented out of game for him to take it easy, which he did not do. We just figured at least he had a designated driver and kept going. Once we set up camp, Warlock was legit hammered, and so his quote-unquote character went to Paladin's camp and told her in explicit detail how much he wanted to bang her. Paladin also basically just tells him in character that she will never betray her boyfriend or her gods, so GTFO. So obviously, he decides to kill her god, like any sane player would do. He then casts Plane Shift to the Feywild, as her god watches over the Feywild, and then cast a meteor swarm to just decimate it. The DM had him roll to see how devastating it was, and he rolled a nat 20. So the DM let him basically launch a dinosaur extinction level meteor on the Feywild. A weird decision by the DM in my honest opinion. It makes Meteor Swarm feel a bit too OP, but I guess that he felt the Feywild wasn't too important to the campaign. However, his actions incurred the wrath of her god. Her god confronted him and demanded that he answer for his crimes against her realm. So he basically went back to his full-on aggro, murder hobo self, and tried to fight the god with an admittedly impressive array of spells. But unsurprisingly, he got his ass handed to him. He died, no death saves, nothing. He basically got smote by an actual god. There is no way that he was coming back from that. He then started demanding death saves, but the DM refused, and so he went off on how he was biased and all that. It was shocking. He never seemed to care about a character that much. So the DM then asked him what he expected to happen after challenging a god. He then said he was gonna kill him with his dimensional spells, and that even gods aren't immune to reality warping powers, and a bunch of other BS. He then admitted that he was basically trying to kill this god to seduce the Paladin. Again, this was played by his sister. He thought if her god was dead, that she wouldn't have to worry about breaking her oaths if she banged him. She then started laughing and made a somewhat weird comment about how he wouldn't be big enough anyway. He was playing a goblin, so the comment sort of made sense. And he, being as drunk as he was, decided it was a good idea to get butthurt and say, "Is this big enough?" And then he whipped out his penis and slammed it onto the table. Dude, what the actual fuck? Now, we had put up with quite a bit of this guy's antics, including him being a weirdo, but this obviously crossed the line. We all started yelling at him and calling him a pervert. We told him to get the F out, and his sister literally slapped him. She apologized to us for his behavior and demanded that he get in the car. Again, he was too drunk to drive. She profusely apologized to us over and over, and we tried to reassure her and asked if she would prefer one of us to take him instead. But she said, "No, it's okay. He just acts like a total F-wad when he's drunk. That's why I usually don't let him drink." She then left and took him home. We all obviously called it a night after talking about what just happened, and eventually just laughing at the absurdity of it all. And now, it's a few days later, and the a-hole decides to text us a long apology on the group chat, basically saying that he's really sorry, that he has no idea why he would do something like that, and that he rarely ever drinks, and he promises to us that he will never drink again if we let him back in. We had actually decided to take a break from DnD after that, since the DM was going out of town anyway. Apparently, his sister does legitimately think that he should be given another chance because of how sorry he is, and how much he really likes playing with us. She even promised us that she is personally holding him accountable for staying sober, and will not let him bring a single alcoholic beverage or mind-altering substance to our D&D sessions ever again. The Dungeon Master and other players said that we will talk about it when the DM comes back. I feel like we are total idiots for even considering it, but part of me sees him as basically a socially stunted man-child who needs friends to kind of guide him a bit. And despite everything, we did come to see him as a friend. Also, we want to respect her wishes since she is the one who has to deal with him way more than we do. So I know the vast majority of you guys will say kick him out, and for good reasons. But does anyone think that there is any valid argument for letting him stay, provided that he understands that he crossed some major boundaries? TLDR. Our problem player, murder hobo manchild Sister Luster, got hammered, acted like a spaz the whole game, and ended it by whipping out his penis and slamming it onto the table. He apologized, and now wants to play with us again. Jesus Christ. I mean, if all of you talk about it and decide to let him back in the game, that's y'all's prerogative. Personally, if I was in that group, I would take the stance of a hard no. It's one thing to disrupt the game on a constant basis, and maybe get a little too tipsy here and there, but it's another to, let's just say, brandish your weapon for all to see. And it's a shame, because it sounded like he was shaping up as a player a little bit. But after that, I just don't know, man. What do you guys think of this one? I'm honestly curious. Let's move on. I know what tabletop RPGs are. By Reddit user, Nyasta. I am part of a tabletop RPG community that's very open to new players. We even make sure to always have at least one table that runs a one-shot each week to be sure that we can include new players that want to discover the hobby. So, one day, I am a player at one of those one-shots. It was DnD 5e. And two brand new players arrive. I've never seen them before, but only one of them will be irrelevant. Let's call them Luigi. So, Luigi never played a tabletop RPG, but when we try to explain what it is, they get angry, like we had insulted them, as they assured us that they already know everything they needed to. They didn't have a character sheet, but that's okay. We have a few pre-mades just in case. Now, I know that today your phone is practically an extension of yourself, but still, doing Instagram while the DM was explaining our mission was a bit too much in my opinion. They really didn't seem interested, which is weird because they came willingly. They didn't accompany the other new player, and didn't know anyone in the community. But worse than that, they were very condescending. The kind of person who would patronize you for not having grown-up concerns. And then here's the icing of the cake. We run into an encounter, and the dungeon master asks us to roll initiative. And Luigi just casually asks, "Oh, we need dice for this?" I know it was their first time, but still, they did say that they already know. For the combat itself and the rest of the game, they are stuck on Instagram. They don't listen, and when it's their turn to act, we practically have to take their phone from them to notice that we are talking to them. Of course, they never came back, and it didn't ruin our game, so it's a pretty mild horror story. But damn, it was weird. Why even bother to make the effort to come to a new place full of people that you don't know, if you didn't even want to pay attention? TLDR. New player who doesn't even know that you play D&D with dice, gets angry when we want to help them, stays stuck in their phone, and is generally very arrogant. I'm literally at a loss of words here. I mean, one of the first things people think of when picturing Dungeons & Dragons is a D20. How would you not know that? And why did this dude go there? I'm confused. Let's just move on. Paladin refuses to accept healing from Tiefling Cleric and tries to kill them cause they're evil. By Reddit user, Healthy Process 7049. The cast. DM. A high D&D vet, and had a good campaign story and world. Me. Just a bland human fighter. That's all. Druid. A small gnome druid who always talked like he was high on shrooms. Paladin. A high and mighty symbol of justice who will smite all evil, and later a party member. Wizard. Nice, smart, but not involved too much. And Cleric. A standard red tiefling cleric of peace and harmony, also a new player added later in the campaign. The story starts when we were heading into a town to rest. Paladin wanted to visit the town church to ask for shelter and food. DM. You enter and see that it's a small place that also works as a local orphanage, as you see a tiefling in robes holding a book, and then he gets cut off. Paladin. I draw my sword. State your reason for being here, demon, or get sent back to hell where you belong. Cleric. Please put away your weapon. This is a place of worship, not violence. Paladin, out of character.
Oh my god, are you playing a pacifist cleric? They suck.
DM. Paladin, it's cleric's choice on what her domain is. Paladin, out of character.
She should have gone with life to be a better healer at least.
After a while, cleric joined the party, with Paladin always making insist rolls at random to, quote,
see through her devilish lies,
with DM and cleric always telling him to stop and that there's nothing evil about her. Soon, we get into a simple goblin ambush, with cleric giving us support with healing and protection spells, while staying a bit away from combat. In the end, Paladin got hit hard as cleric approached him. Cleric, you look hurt. Here, let me help. Starts to cast Cure Wounds 2nd level. Paladin.
Get away from me, you demonic heathen. Your seduction won't work on a holy warrior of God.
As he proceeded to shove cleric away. Me. She's just trying to help us. Druid. Yeah, just get over your grudge with her. Paladin.
Druid, heal me instead.
Druid, out of character. I only went for combat spells. Paladin, out of character.
I'll just wait for a long rest then.
DM. You're at half health. You sure you can last that long? Paladin said nothing as the DM went on with the story. Night Cleric decides to take Night Watch with Wizard as Paladin decided to not long rest as he starts to follow Cleric around until she sat and began a prayer. Paladin, out of character.
While she's distracted, I draw my sword and impale her with smite.
Everyone. What? DM. Paladin, I said no PvP in session 0, and now you're breaking the rules. Paladin.
It's not PvP if she's not fighting back.
Cleric, at this point, doesn't speak, and her mic is voiceless with soft cries coming out. Paladin rolls, despite the DM saying that he can't, and gets max damage as he proclaims,
Now you die, you unholy spawn of evil.
DM. Paladin. As your sword impales her, a bright light shines from your sword. As the smite is sent back to you, your flesh starts to melt off, your head shrinks, and you explode into a pile of guts and blood, as your holy god quickly resurrects Cleric, as you had broken your sworn oath to your god for killing an innocent person. Paladin is quickly kicked from the game by the DM, as Cleric stops crying for a bit. As the rest of us apologize to her, DM says that she can leave if she wants to, but she still wants to try playing again, and she ended up staying in our game until she had to leave due to time schedules. TLDR. Paladin kills our cleric for being a tiefling, and gets killed like the Nazis at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, I'm normally a proponent of solving things out of game when things like this happen, but in this case I make an exception, as the Dungeon Master did try to reiterate that in Session 0 he said that there would be no PvP, and Paladin's reasoning of, it's not PvP if she isn't fighting back, is just idiotic. So I say the Dungeon Master taking him out of the game Indiana Jones style gets 2 paws up in my book. It is nice to hear that Cleric stayed in the game afterwards, but it is a shame that she got taken out by all tabletop RPG players' arch nemesis, scheduling issues. Hopefully, she'll be able to join them again sometime, if the stars align. But that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you consider giving it a like and subscribing, as that really does help the channel grow. And as always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.